afternoon, the guest speaker, the panelists, your excellencies, members of the academia present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen that have linked up from all corners of the world, and noble members of the Nigerian Global Roundtable present. You are all welcome. I would also like to recognize the presence of all our previous guest speakers and panelists who may be present. I recognize the presence of the distinguished members of the Urobo Renaissance Society present, as well as the leaders of the Nigerian Diaspora Organization and all other organizations present. Once again, you are all welcome to this important webinar on the challenges Nigeria is facing at the moment, leading many to be calling for the restructuring of Nigeria and others even for secession from the Union. The webinar of today titled Nigeria at the Crossroads, Way Forward Out of Our Mental Slavery, is an effort to explore the best way moving forward. We have with us today as guest speaker, the activist and Barrister Dele Farotimi to share his thoughts with us. We have also assembled an exciting panel to share their thoughts and interact with us. We hope the conversation will help to better understand the challenges facing Nigeria in our quest to finding the right approach to making Nigeria a better place for all citizens. Furthermore, we hope the event will inspire all the participants to understand their roles and what contributions we can make as individuals. Hopefully, today's conversation shall produce outcomes that point to enduring understanding and pathways to political stability. I am Dr. Jones Edobor, an economist and the convener of the Nigerian Global Roundtable, your chief host for today. My co-host is OT Ayenbi and Dr. Akin Fapohunda. Before going on to introduce our guest speaker and the panelists, let me say a few words on who the Nigerian Global Roundtable are. The Nigerian Global Roundtable is an NGO think tank aimed at pursuing good governance and accountability to facilitate the economic empowerment and overall development of Nigeria and Africa at large. The Think and Do NGO is a legal entity registered in Vienna, Austria, but draws its membership from distinguished Nigerian professionals from across the world. And now, I have the honor to introduce our distinguished guest speaker and discussants. Without any exaggeration, our guest speaker today, Barrister Dele Farotimi, is a person of courage who speaks truth to power. Dele Farotimi is a lawyer, author, and member of Citizens Rally Against Oppression. He served as president of the Students' Union at Lagos State University while he was a student and was called to the Nigerian bar in 1999. In 2002, he established Dele Farotimi & Co., now DF Legal, a full-service law firm. He remained in active legal practice until his retirement in 2018 at the age of 50. That must have been a very, very lucrative business to retire so early. Dele Farotimi is an activist, a political commentator, and author of two thought-provoking and insightful books. The one is Do Not Die in Their War, and the second is Imperatives of the Nigerian Revolution. Dele Farotimi is passionate about the birth of a new and better Nigeria. You are welcome, sir. Our first discussant is Professor Hope Eghagha. Hope Eghagha is Professor of English and Theatre Arts at the University of Lagos. He obtained his PhD from the University of Lagos in 1994. He has over 26 years of teaching and research experience. He has taught at the Ondo State University in Ado-Ekiti, now University of Ado-Ekiti, and at Ondo State and University of Lagos. Professor Hope Eghagha was the Sub-Dean, Faculty of Arts, Ondo State University, and Secretary, Academic Staff Union of Universities during his Ondo State University period. He was the acting head of English Department of the University of Lagos. He was the acting Dean Faculty of Arts, University of Lagos, and head Department of English, University of Lagos. Professor Hope Eghagha was the Publicity Secretary, UNILAG Staff Club. He was elected member of University of Lagos Senate, adopted member Ceremonies Committee on Ondo State University, member UNILAG Staff School Board, member Senate Committee on Publicity. He was a member Finance, Facilities and Endowment Committee, a committee postgraduate school of University of Lagos. He was a member Publications Committee, Postgraduate School, University of Lagos. Presenter, Matters Arising, University of Lagos FM Radio. He was General Secretary, Study Group for the Advancement of Africans and Blacks in the Diaspora, Ondo State University, Ado-Ekiti. He worked as producer, Nigerian Television Authority in Sokoto in 1982 to 1983 for the Nigerian Youth NYSC. Professor Eghagha is a visiting member, the Guardian Editorial Board, a member Publicity Committee for the installation of Oroje of Okpe Kingdom, Delta State. He is a member of the think tank of Okpe Kingdom, Delta State, National Chairman, the LOC of Okpe International Conference. He was an external assessor, Mass Communication, English Department, Yaba College of Technology. He was Delta State Commissioner for Higher Education and also Delta State Commissioner, Government House. He was Chairman, Editorial Board, Daily of Nigeria. He was an external examiner, Department of English, Olabisi Onabanjo University, Ago Iwoye, Ogun State. He was external examiner, General Studies Department, Yaba College of Technology, Yaba. He is an external examiner, Benson Idahosa University. He is editor and on the board of several journals. He has competencies in dramatic literature, African literature, theory of drama, African poetry, creative writing, and diaspora studies. And he has further competencies in oral literature, composition, and rhetoric. He is a member of several societies and organizations and has been bestowed with several awards. He has written several books and plays. He has written and reviewed several essays and supervised several arts degree projects. He has attended numerous national and international conferences, including the Africanisten Tag organized by the University of Vienna, Austria in 2017. You are welcome, sir. Our second discussant is Dr. Akin Fapohunda. He graduated from University of Ibadan with BSc and PhD degrees in 1975 and 1986, respectively. Further trainings were undertaken across many other institutions in all continents of the world, except South America. He joined the Federal Public Service in 1976 and worked in a variety of institutions, the last of which was at the Presidency as the Director Space Sciences Office, from which he voluntarily retired in December 2000. He has since then participated in several professional undertakings as educational and IT consultant to institutional and corporate bodies across the country. He is part of several socio-political organizations. He is a member of Afenifere, the foremost organization of the Yorubas, as a director in charge of research and strategy. He is a member of the Voice of Reason, a member of Yoruba Concerned Elders. He is the Secretary Steering Committee Eminent Elders Forum, an organization comprising 350 members retired from a variety of positions and drawn from across Nigeria. He is the convener of the Oduduwa Society, a body of Yoruba professionals and academia. So you are welcome, sir. Our third discussant is O.T. Ayenbi. O.T. Ayenbi is a lecturer at the University of Strasbourg, France. O.T. Ayenbi has a multicultural trajectory in education in an intercultural setting, living in France and working in a cross-cultural environment with internationals from different parts of the world. She is a former middle management staff of the Nigerian Youth Service Corps, Abuja, and a one-time UNESCO consultant to the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, on education and HIV/AIDS. She presented a paper at the consultative meeting on Commonwealth strategies to prevent HIV/AIDS epidemic at the Commonwealth Secretariat, London, UK. She also presented a paper on HIV and young women in ECOWAS at the African Conference on Sexual Health and Rights in Johannesburg, South Africa. O.T. Ayenbi had in the past designed and organized cross-cultural intelligence trainings on behalf of Aperian Global, Boston, United States of America, in their Paris office for Europeans moving to work in Africa, with special reference to West Africa. She's currently embarking on a PhD research in sociolinguistics with specialization in language shift and language endangerment, with focus on safeguarding, revitalizing, and maintaining endangered indigenous heritage and minority languages. She has presented papers in her field in several international conferences. Our fourth discussant is Engineer Alexander Neyin. Although he's not yet here, but I'm just going to introduce him so that when he comes, I don't have to do that all over again. Engineer Alexander Neyin is a renowned technocrat with over 44 years experience in the oil and gas industry. He worked for Chevron locally in Nigeria and internationally in the US in several high technical and managerial positions. He also worked with Agdax Petroleum Nigeria Limited. He consulted for several oil companies, banks, PTDF, etc. He taught petroleum engineering courses in University of Benin, Uniport, African University of Sciences and Technology in Abuja. Engineer Neyin is notably recognized as the one responsible for the award of 9 marginal fees in Chevron with no legal issue due to his absolute transparency. He is very sound technically in area of drilling, reservoir engineering, production operation, and optimization and economics. Engineer Neyin was a pioneer driver of Marginal Field Award, the PIB, and the local content concept during Dr. Rewanu Lukman as Petroleum Advisor, Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He is a distinguished and honorary member of the Society of Petroleum Engineers International. He is a current registered engineer and a fellow of Nigerian Society of Engineers, the NSE. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree and Master of Science from the prestigious Texas Agricultural and Mechanical University College and University of Southwest Louisiana, Lafayette in the USA, respectively. I welcome you, Madam, and you all, sirs, to this event that I hope will produce some valuable takeaways at the end of the webinar. We hope this will be the beginning of a long-term mutual relationship between you and the Nigerian Global Roundtable. Before I hand over to Barrister Dele Farotimi, let me just mention that while the guest speaker and discussants are speaking, All microphones shall be muted. Participants shall have the opportunity to ask questions or make brief contributions later. All participants can use the chat function to ask questions or make comments. Kindly avoid talking until you have been called upon to do so. Thank you. May I now call on Barrister Dele Farotimi to start his presentation. Thank you. So over to you now, Barrister Dele Farotimi.
Fraud that I might very well be, because here I am confronted by no less than Professor Eghagha, and then I see Dr. Akin Fapohunda, and then there is Madam Oti, and then I'm asking myself, exactly, and then as if that wasn't enough, Dr. Edobor had to start talking about engineer Neyin, and then mentioned 44 years in the oil industry. And here I am. I actually enjoy pulling ranks on the young people that I tend to speak with. I'll tell them, I'm 53 years old now, you know. And then I'm being told that there is a man who worked in the oil industry for 44 years. And then you all drag me here and you expect that I have something sensible to say. Okay, so now I am scared. So you will please pardon me where I make some of the errors that I believe I make serially all the time, but I'm sure somebody like Professor Eghagha will be sorry. He will be sorry enough for me not to, he won't be too hard on me. So let me just make an attempt and pretend, as I've always pretended, that I know what I'm talking about. So I will stand on the existing protocols, but I will also thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I do not take it lightly, especially given the fact that some of the persons who are on the panel with me are names that I have heard over the years. Professor Eghagha's work, I was opportune to study as an undergraduate because I did attempt to pick a degree in English language whilst I was meandering my way through the university system, where I gathered all kinds of useful and unuseful knowledge. So I must say thank you very much for the opportunity. But in order not to take too much of our time, I would like to deal specifically with the subject that has been dropped on my laps. And then I hope, as I said, that I will not be as ignorant as I am fearing that I am now. So I looked at the topic. It says Nigeria at Crossroad, way forward out of our mental slavery. And then in an earlier chat, when I was seeking to have clear understanding as to the parameters for our discussion, Dr. Edobor had actually said that he hopes, I'm quoting him now, that the conversation will help to better understand the challenges facing Nigeria and the best way forward to for giving sovereignty to the citizens. So I looked at the totality of the topic itself, the clarifications offered by Dr. Edobor, and I said to myself that it is best that certain guardrails be established so that my rather vivid imagination would not stray too far and then drag the discussion into the mundane. So what I have done is that I say it is important that we understand the issues because diagnostics is certainly important to a clear understanding of what we're dealing with. And in dealing with those diagnostics, I'm going to attempt a deconstruction of the topic itself, Nigeria at Crossroad. Question is, what is Nigeria? Because we all always assume that we understand exactly what this Nigeria is, and yet it has defied understanding 60 years after its beginnings. So I think it is critical that we understand what is Nigeria. Yeah. Nigeria is a state, a creation of the British colonial experience and the product of a negotiation that took place pre-independence and that battered the 1960 Constitution Some people didn't want to be any part of that nonsense called Nigeria. I'm using the word nonsense with the benefit of history in the rear side now. So they left. They became part of Cameroon. So some of the people who are today in Nigeria also had a choice. They could have elected not to be part of Nigeria. So as at 1960, there was an agreement that a country would be, and it was called Nigeria, and it was found on agreements. Those agreements culminated in the 1960 Constitution. It was further perfected by the 1963 Republican Constitution, but that Nigeria ended in 1966. It was mortally wounded in January 1966. It was finally killed in July 1966. It's been replaced by some sort of Frankenstein. Nigeria as conceived and as it started out in 1960, beyond the will of the British, died in July 1966. So when we say that the Frankenstein that was born in 1966 is today at a crossroad, question is, what do we mean by a crossroad? I would say that the crossroad in question refers to the multiple contradictions that have been birthed by the Frankenstein of 1966, the several attempts made to keep it alive. To keep it alive, you have to feed it constantly from the breast milk of injustice, from the breast milk of inequities, and from the breast milk of complete wickedness. So it's been kept alive, but now it is in a place where those contradictions have coalesced and Nigeria is dying. That Nigeria is dying. That is the crossroad. Now, the second part of that spoke of our mental slavery. So I ask myself, how are we mentally enslaved? Fact of the matter is that we're not only mentally enslaved, Nigerians are functionally, perhaps I might even say slaves, because truth of the matter is that the Nigerian is not a citizen. The average nation or state or country has territory, then it has citizens. But unfortunately, the Nigerian is anything but a citizen. Citizens can only exist in societies governed and anchored on law. When a state, as I have said, is preserved on the breast milk of injustice and inequity, it cannot and does not have the capacity to give freedom or citizenship. So the first loss is the loss of self-determination, which is the foundation of citizenship. So the Nigerian is not a citizenship, is not a citizen, so he's already functionally a slave. So when we're talking about mental slavery, we must understand that the slavery in question, yes, begin up here in the brain, but it has already traveled beyond the brain, and the physical manifestation is that the Nigerian is today functionally a slave because his will is not involved in the determination of what happens in his life. So that effectively renders him a slave. Now, the point of our slavery, unfortunately, began long ago. The point of the slavery of the Nigerian pre-existed the Nigerian state. It is, unfortunately, the story of the black man. It is difficult to explore in this lecture, but I would like to touch on it. If you check specifically, I believe, Acts of Apostles, chapter 17, verse 23, you'll find where Apostle Paul spoke of the monument to the unknown God. Now, this was an European appropriation of the content of their original spirituality, exporting it into the religion found and called Christianity. But this is a prerogative that was not extended to the black man. So whilst the white man can continue to celebrate his past, his pagan spiritualism or spirituality, the black man has been taught to hate everything that is original to him, to the point where the greatest tragedy of Christianity in Yoruba land, I don't know in other places, and I think it affects the Igbo too, is that when you check the Yoruba Bible, you find that there is an appropriation of the Yoruba God, the Yoruba God, the one that was a messenger issue. It became Satan in Christian tradition, and it is the same in Islamic tradition in Yoruba land. So what you find very quickly is that the African has been emptied of his original spirituality, and he has been given vacuous religiosity that has no connection to his person, his custom, or his origins. So he can swear by Ogun and be very careful about not breaking his word. But he thinks nothing of swearing on the Bible, on the Quran, or anything, because it's not connected to it. So when you speak to the mental slavery, you find that that mental slavery has its root in the religious vacuousness of the African mind, but it has also translated and become real in connection to the governance of the African, especially in unjust societies such as Nigeria. Now, the question asked now is, what's the way forward? I will begin by saying that whatever else we may or may not do as a people, we must understand very quickly that the truth is foundational to any solutions that we might seek for the Nigerian problems. A gentleman once wrote, and he said, Nigeria has an Igbo problem. He didn't bother to explain too far, but I began to interrogate those words. And I found that Nigeria indeed has an Igbo problem, but the Igbo problem of Nigeria is actually a crisis of citizenship. The moment Nigerians lost their citizenship, which meant the moment Nigeria lost the rule of law, because you cannot have citizens in an area or space devoid of the rule of law. As long as men rule, as long as it is the will of big men, the messiahs that we have always put forward, instead of building systems that rule and prevail over the Nigerian people, we will never be able to evolve citizenship, and we will never be able to evolve a just and fair society. So the first thing we need to do is to tell ourselves truth. It is critical that we told ourselves this truth without fear or favor. The centrality of truth in the quest for justice cannot be overemphasized. The human spirit instinctively demands justice. No matter how weak a man is, no matter how strong his oppressors might be, the spirit of the man would never be accepting of injustice. He might grumble, he might not even have the will to grumble, but he will never accept the injustice, and it will only breed strife. It is not by accident that Nigeria is bedeviled by all sorts of insecurity and violence today. It is a clear function of our inability to deliver justice to the oppressed up and down the length and breadth of Nigeria. The second thing that we need to do immediately after understanding the need for justice and truth is to begin to understand the commonalities of our afflictions. I speak to the commonalities of our afflictions because I can tell you, and anyone who bothers to look can see very clearly, that there is really no part of Nigeria, as in terms of region or a state, or even a local government that might be said to be benefiting or enjoying the Nigerian state. The reality is that even though power might be appropriated on behalf of a group, if you look at the federal government, some people will tell you that it's the Hausa Fulani. If you come closer to Yoruba land in Oyo State, they'll tell you power is being exercised in Oyo State for the Ibadan people. But the point you will find very quickly is that upon any form of scrutiny, you will discover that whilst you might have class capture of power, you do not have ethnic capture of power. Class capture might hide behind ethnicity in order to legitimize what has been claimed for a narrow group, and that exists in Nigeria, but it has always masqueraded well as though it were to be about class. So generally, if the man in Eghagha, for instance, understands that the children that are being kidnapped, especially let's say Kankara, for instance, in Katsina State, these are Fulani children. They were not kidnapped by Yoruba, Igbo, Ijo, or anybody. They were kidnapped by Fulani terrorists, whom our government has refused to call by their proper name and continues to call bandits. But these same Fulani bandits, when they come to Eghagha, their ethnicity becomes a factor because the complicity of the state tends to give the ethnic coloration. But the reality is that what you are seeing is actually the failure of the state itself multiplying and playing out in different theaters, but almost always misunderstood and called something entirely different. The Islamia school children in Niger State, they are not Yorubas, they are not Igbos. These are people we would once upon a time have referred to as Hausa. That was the catch-all phrase for everybody from across that river. But the reality is that the same insecurity that is playing out in Ugeli, the one that they are seeing in Otuoke, the one that is playing out in Eghagha, the failure of the state that is apparent in the Yewa district of Ogun State, the same failure of the state that you see in southern Kaduna, that you are seeing even in the Plateau and in the Mambila, the same problem that you see all over Nigeria masquerades itself so that the Nigerian people do not really see what the problem is, and they have learned to accept the lie, which is that this is an ethnic thing. Yes, ethnicities are involved, or there is a religious thing. Yes, I admit religion is also a factor, but the reality is that what we are all seeing are the multiple failures of the state. And as long as we continue to help our rulers who prefer that we speak in terms of ethnicities and religion, as long as we help them to continue to perpetuate that myth, instead of holding them accountable for the clear failure of the state to perform its very first function, which is the protection of the life and properties of the citizens. Like I said, we are not citizens. 20 policemen to one government functionary. But the people on the street, nobody to protect them. And when they are even there, they are busy collecting money from the miscreants who are trampling on the people. So when we are done understanding the need for a reorder of our country to reestablish the rule of law, to reestablish justice, to reestablish the right of the citizens, when we are also done understanding that this is not about ethnicities per se, it is about the failure of the state, then it becomes easy to understand that in order for us to go forward, we actually have to go back. What do I mean by going back? The last expressed will of the Nigerian people is the 1963 Constitution. And the 1963 Constitution provides a very clear example of exactly how much we have been robbed of our citizenship and exactly how much it undermines everything we seek to do, and how if we do not reestablish that, we merely waste time. Let me explain. As at 1962, the need became apparent because of the agitation of the people of the Middle Belt for the need for the creation of the Middle Belt region, the Midwest region. A motion was passed in the Western House of Assembly passed by a 2/3 majority in compliance with the 1960 Constitution for the creation of the Midwest region. That motion was taken before the House of Reps in Lagos. It was further passed by a 2/3 majority. A plebiscite was then organized, and that plebiscite passed for the creation of the Midwest region. So the sovereign will of the people mattered. It was taken into consideration before a single region was added to the original 3. But the minute Nigeria was stolen in 1966, between 1966 and today, what was independent, 3 states, 3 regions that became 4 regions in 1963. Between 1966 and today, we have a total of 36 states. 2 things happened immediately. I said that once I said 36 states, 2 things happened. 1, you have the incongruity of a federal government that has created federating units. Nigeria has been substantially restructured between 1966 and the 1999 Constitution that we operate today. It is critical that we ask ourselves, when the 1999 Constitution says that we the people, who are the people, is very simple. The 1979 Constitution, which itself was the product of a decree by Obasanjo, who discarded and discountenanced the recommendations of the Constituent Assembly of 1977. They took that 1979 Constitution, which was itself a decree, panel beat it. Abdul Salami turned it into another constitution, Decree 24 of 1999, and it says that is the will of the Nigerian people. That constitution is the basis of the fundamental restructuring of Nigeria that has already taken place and that is taking place. It is what has led us to the petroleum industry bill that has just come out with the incongruities that it contains. It is what has led us to the serious missteps that we have taken over the years as a people. So how do we go forward if we do not go back? Not going back ignores the fact that the current structure of the Nigerian state has been dictated by men whom history have proven to be thieves, myopic, crooks, self-serving men and women who structured Nigeria solely for their own convenience and their own stealing. Nothing altruistic about what they did, nothing to recommend it to anyone. The fact of the matter is that there is no way you justify a movement from a regional system that more or less has integrated states, or has integrated states within a larger state that function at their own pace and with relative independence. And then today you have what is, you can't even call what we have a unitary system. The British have a unitary system. There is a Welsh assembly with devolved powers. There is a Scottish government with devolved powers that regularly, at least in my lifetime, Scotland has, I believe, had 2 votes demanding to leave the United Kingdom. So, and that is a unitary state. But my own country either lies that it is trying to find true federalism, or we say, oh, we are practicing pseudo-federalism. The lie is that Nigeria has been substantially taken away from its original creation, and it has been turned into something that, as the question asked, is at a crossroad today. So, answering your question, I repeat again, before you may go forward, we would have to go back. Now, I had occasion to be answering a question today online, and the question was, where is Nigeria going to be in 2023? And this is relevant to the question I've been asked again now. I have been known to make what people consider outlandish statements when I say them, but I am not happy to say that each and every one of the things I have said concerning Nigeria has come exactly the way I said it will happen. So I ask you to please incline your heads and let's be clear about this. By 2023, if Nigeria does not find a way to drag itself away from the brink of the abyss, ISWAP would have gained significant foothold, if not control, of the Northeast. It would have found some sort of alliance, be that at some criminal level or at some religious level, because there are already evidences of collaboration between the Fulani terrorists and Boko Haram. Boko Haram is already being decimated and it is largely weakened. And ISWAP will take over its territory for one clear reason. Where Boko Haram used to kill the people, ISWAP is telling them, come back to your farms, pledge allegiance, and you can farm in peace. They are tired of living in refugee camps. That is the beginning of the legitimization of extremism and accommodation by people who would ordinarily not have found accommodation for it, but it will be because the Nigerian state has failed. That is one. Two, we've already lost significant part and control of the Nigerian territory to Fulani bandits and criminalities in the Northwest. The North Central is also significantly threatened. I expect that by 2023, unless concerted efforts are made, the entire North will be largely overtaken either by terrorism or insurgency. The North Central, old fault lines, old battles that were being fought before the British came have been restarted and they've been intensified in the last 6 years. And that's why Autumn is shouting on a daily basis. The Taraba governor is also always shouting and is already creeping across. I expect that secessionist struggles in the South would peak because there is this hubris that has led the Buhari government and the Fulani Islamist agenda to imagine that it is possible to force his will down people's throat. You see those hubris manifesting clearly in bills such as the Petroleum Industry Bill. Clear manifestation of hubris. You see a winner-take-all mentality that ignores the fact that even though every state is ruled predominantly by hegemonies, when the hegemony becomes predatory, the people in that space are always going to rebel, and Nigeria is already drawing to that space. How do we then hold election in the light of all of this? I don't see that happening, and I hope we are not foolish enough to wait. Now, in the midst of all of this, and I'll try to round up because I'm conscious of the fact that I'm meant to have only 30 minutes. It sounds drab, everything sounds apocalyptic, but there is a way forward. The way forward I have laid out before. Recognize the commonalities of our afflictions. Understand that it is not about the Fulani man, even though it is wearing a Fulani mask. No governor of my state in the last 22 years has been Fulani. There has been no Fulani governor of Lagos State. Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not a Fulani. Obasanjo is not Fulani. Oji Uzor Kalu is not Fulani. The governor, the governor emeritus of the Niger Delta, or shall I say Delta State, Ibori, is not Fulani and is not Muslim. The Fulani virus of feudalism has jumped hosts. Each and every one of our governors and rulers in the South are disconnected from the pains of their people, and they are more Fulani than the Fulanis themselves. So it is important that we understand the commonalities of our afflictions, understanding clearly that it is a class affliction masquerading behind the larger mask of the tribe and of religion. The second thing is that we must understand that there is a need to synergize We cannot be speaking in silos. The round table is saying his own in this little corner of the world. Some other persons are saying their own, but we're not speaking to each other. We're not synergizing. We're not creating platforms. We're not creating clear agendas. We're not creating programs of education and mobilization. We speak to ourselves. We speak all this dogon trenchy. I go on TV, I go online, I speak, and then I speak some more. For how many are really hearing? So it is important that we speak to ourselves, understand the commonalities of our affliction, create common agenda, and then place this agenda before the Nigerian people as an alternative to the decadent system that we are grappling with. I wrote 2 books on Nigeria. To each one of them, I have made available for free to all Nigerians. I have placed thoughts on the way forward. There is a draft constitution modeled after the 1963 constitution around which we have hoped to build consensus, and we submitted that as a memorandum to the National Assembly Review Panel, even though we know that it lacks the legitimacy. But let it be said that we did our own bit. If we fail to find a way to pull back from the brink of this abyss, we will end up in a war, but there will be beneficiaries of that war. 2 principal beneficiaries I will draw attention to, and I will let it rest at that so that others might be able to share their thoughts. The first one, the Nigerian ruining class. They've stolen more than enough. People are fainting and waking up in our National Assembly because they don't expect to ever be held to account. So if we ever get stupid enough to allow the reign of impunity to become a war or an implosion, it means that they never get to account for the crimes that they have committed. That is one. And it is linked to the first. The second is the international community. There is this illusion that Nigerians, particularly, and the Black man in general, has had for a long time, we believe in the altruism of the outside world. We believe in the benign love of the West, or even the East, or of anyone else for that matter. But the reality is that every race we have come in contact with has enslaved us. The British sent a general to jail because he drew more, I think about 50-something thousand pounds in child scholarship fund. A general, I can't remember his name now. This was sometime last year. They sent him to jail because he drew more for corruption. The judge made sure to make an example of him. He had retired. He was a major general. He was stripped of his ranks and sent to prison. No option of fine, nothing. But the same British, one of them joked blithely in the Commons. He spoke of how Gowon escaped to England with half of Nigeria's treasury. Joke it might have been, but there was a lot of seriousness embedded in that joke. There is a standard by which they treat our own thieves, encourage them to bring our commonwealth and take it into Europe. We struggle in Nigeria, no matter how hard we try, no matter how much you have, your poverty is institutional because the wealth of Europe and the West must be assured. They take our money, they put it in European banks. Banks buy money and they sell money. They buy money when they take deposits. They sell it when they give loans. The interest, the margin is where their gains and profits are. Nigerian banks cannot lend you money unless they're double digits, because when they get money, it's for only a short while, and institutionally, because the central bank minimum discount rate has already made it clear that you must always borrow at double digits. If the central bank is giving 14% as minimum discount rate, how much can the commercial bank lend at? So you find a situation where no matter how hard we try here, the system is already rigged. So they gain if we implode. They will sell arms. Those who have stolen our money all these years and those who still have some to take out, we take it there. They will get the best of our brains, they will cherry pick. And then some other persons will inherit our paradigms. I believe I've gone on long enough. I should allow other people to have their say. There's a way forward, but we have to find the courage to walk it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Barrister Farotimi. As usual, you have spoken truth to power as usual, even though there is nobody here from the government. But this video will, the event is being recorded. So we hope that some people outside this platform will get to see the video and see what we are discussing here this evening. So thank you so much for that first part of your contribution. May I now call on Professor Eghagha? Eghagha, I think. I'm sorry for
Eghagha.
Eghagha, I'm sorry for the pronunciation. So the floor is handed over to you to add your thoughts.
Thank you very much. The moderator, Dr. Edobor, colleagues, well, the guest speaker, after listening to you, I thought I should just go away because you seem to have said it all. In your introductory remarks, you said you were awed by the caliber of persons on the platform, and you ended up awing us. I want to congratulate you for the profundity of your thoughts and the usual radical trajectory which you've given to thoughts about Nigeria. I thank you. Well, in some remarks I made earlier on, I said that we could actually talk about Nigeria for 1 hour because there's a lot to talk about. A lot of persons are agitated. There is uncertainty. It is not rocket science to say that for the younger generation, they want to leave. If you give them the opportunity, they will relocate, you know, as a result of the insecurity in the country, as a result of the directionless trajectory which we perceive in Abuja, from Abuja. All right, so most of our comfort zones have been challenged. They've been interrogated. The notion of Nigeria, which we inherited, which was encapsulated in the national anthem, though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand, seems to have been turned on its head. All right, and that belief in one Nigeria is seriously being questioned by acts of omission and commission. Unfortunately, we run a system that is almost military, coming from Abuja, and it percolates. That system has become a culture. So there is a symbiotic relationship between the culture of impunity and the system which we run. And so it percolates down to the governors and then to the chairman of the local government. And I dare say that most Nigerians who aspire to power do so because they want to be like the others. They want to be like those who had been there before. I recall reading Ayikoyama, the Ghanaian novelist, who said that the persons who fought against the colonial government did so out of love, not out of hatred. They wanted them to leave so that they would take over their positions. All right, so when you begin to talk about mental slavery, therefore, you begin to see that it is inherited. Mr. Farotimi had gone back in time to talk about slavery, the colonial encounter as evinced in religion and in political culture. He's done that very well. I should make a thesis statement, which I would like to draw from George Orwell, where he was talking about the pros, when he's talking about the underclass in society, where he says, until they become conscious they will never rebel. And until they rebel, they cannot become conscious. All right? And then I listened to Bob Marley when he talked about emancipate yourself from mental slavery. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. You know, these are deep things that except we know, we cannot react. All right. And there are so many people who don't understand the dynamics of our current society. What is mental slavery? It's a state of mind where to discern between liberation and enslavement is twisted. All right. So one is trapped by misinformation. And this has happened at different levels. I have some bullet points here which I would like to speak to quickly. One, recent events show that the configuration of the Nigerian state in modern times is oppressive, is exploitative, and it is no longer satisfactory. And when we talk about the configuration, it is in different segments, all right? It's not simply saying create states or not create states. We have created more states, it has not favored us. I agree with the point of returning to the 1963 Constitution, not just in letter, but in spirit as well, you know, to give the different regions the capacity to develop on their own, okay? Right now, we seem to have an imposition. I agree to an extent that there is exploitation that is going on, which is masqueraded by ethnicity. But there is also an ethnic capture of power. We cannot run away from that, particularly at the federal level. And then because of the system that we run, where the federal authorities seem to dictate who becomes who at all levels of governance, especially at the state level, all right? The governors, therefore, become loyal, in quotes, not to the people who elected them, but to those who control the levers of power. In Abuja, those who could truncate your ambition at the level of the primaries. Those who can truncate your ambition at the level of the primaries if you want to become a senator in Nigeria. You know, so when we talk about restructuring Nigeria, it is deeper than just saying create regions. Let's go back to regionalism. What we're saying is let the different components work, determine, shape their destinies, and let us limit defense. Yes, you know, to the federal, you know, currency, external relations. But when it comes to those details, let's allow the constituent part. So now it's an anomalous situation where to become a governor, somebody who sits in the recesses of Niger State, on Kano and Dara would have a say. All right, that has to be interrogated, that has to be changed. Now, there are self-created shackles that we have. Okay, we can go back in time to talk about how the European forces came and then said our ways of life were inferior, our culture was inferior, religion inferior, and they made us believe that they were superior. And we subscribe to that notion by even denigrating our complexion, the skin, the color of the skin, that even in 21st century advertising, you find our gurus going for light-skinned girls more than dark-skinned girls. That's perhaps at a lighter level, but there is something which is an aversion for me, that we seem to venerate everything that is foreign. It's been there, we've quarreled about it, we have argued, we've remonstrated, but it remains, and that is part of mental slavery. Now, that global, that colonial mentality is being replaced now by an internal colonial force. That is the perception that other constituent parts of the country have. All right, that is it. That this is a domination. This is domination from another part of the country. How come farmers in my hometown in the Niger Delta will have to pay a toll to Fulani herdsmen in Uweru before they get to their farm? And where these herdsmen claim, boast about being sons of the leader of the country. You see, the president is not there to refute it, but that is the dominant narrative, so that it becomes something like an academic exercise to argue that what is going on is not ethnic dominance, but a class struggle. I agree. I spent 5 years of my youthful life in the North. I still have contacts in the North. I do know that the hardship which we experience in the South is harsher in the North. If you've traveled to Maiduguri, if you've traveled to Niger State, which is a few hours from Abuja, if you travel to the inner cities, the inner villages of Kauranamuda, you find suffering. So there is a common denominator. However, those who control the levels of power have not, although they have seized the state, they have captured the state, they have not used the resources of the state to better the lives of the peasants, of the people in their part of the country. And that is the reason, one of the reasons you have economic migration. Or that's part of the reason, one of the reasons you have a lot of them, a lot of people leaving the far north, even the middle north, to come to the south for daily bread. All right, so they're economic migrants, just the way there are terrorists and bandits. So all of these things are fused. Now, there is also the need to realize and to recognize, to realize that things could be different. And then how should things be different? How can things be different? Who can make it different? Who can make a difference? Now, options. One, there should be a negotiated discussion on Nigeria. Nobody should say that Nigeria is not negotiable. Nigeria is indeed negotiable. Nigeria is in a process. We have not been able to accept Nigeria as it is. There is a question mark right now in front of Nigeria. What is Nigeria? Who is a Nigerian? Okay, and this can be interrogated at different levels. Now, the emergence of non-state actors is frightening, but it is a reaction to the apparent ineptitude or nonchalance of state actors. We were all pleasantly surprised when the Southern governors even dared to hold meetings. They never did that before. And they have come out to make some profound statements, all right, which have pleased persons in the South. And then persons have said, what were you waiting for? We elected you, speak for us. And their unity cut across party lines. That showed something. It should scare us. It should worry us. It should worry Abuja that something ought to be done before 2023. Yes, something ought to be done. And if you took note, there are certain governors from the North who supported the Southern governors in their declaration, even about open grazing, because the open grazing favors no state, really. It only favors those who control that business. It is a business. It is not a state business. It is a private business. All over the world, I mean, from time immemorial, very early, there had always been clashes between herdsmen and farmers. So much so that in the books of Leviticus and Deuteronomy in the Bible, even in Quran, they made some laws. Some laws were made about relationships between agriculture, between pastoralists and farmers. There are some laws. It means it's an age-old problem, which modern societies, modern nations have resolved through ranching, private business. That is one of the ways. We just need a declaration now in Nigeria. We need a declaration from Abuja. We need a new body language from Abuja to stop us from getting to the edge of the bitter precipice. The war option should be avoided completely. 1967 to 1970 was bad enough. Incidentally, the young people of the country today have no real memory of the Civil War. I remember traveling to Nsukka once with a police orderly and a driver. And as we were driving through some parts of the Southeast, I told the police orderly, I said, I first came here in 1971 after the war. And he was asking me which war. He was not even conscious of the fact of our historical reality that we once fought a war. This was a police orderly. I couldn't believe it. I then talked to the driver. Well, he knew a little bit about it. He said he'd go fight. And, so that consciousness is not there amongst the young people. Whatever it is, the war option should be ruled out completely because it will not serve the poor. It will not serve the masses of this country. Those who have the wealth and the means, at the drop of a hat, they will escape from this country and there will be decimation of human life. Now, the level of insecurity is frightening. The states are asking for state police. If the federal police had been able to nip, control, secure the state, nobody will be talking about state police at this time. But it will now seem that the federal police, the Nigerian police, is partisan. That is the narrative out there. That is the perception out there because they don't take sides with the people. That is a question which we have to address. Now, there is the state capture by the elites. There's a state capture. That is what is going on. Now, when a few persons who are noble, who believe in the common good, capture the state, there are certain things they could do for the common good. In other words, when they think about the overall interest of Nigeria. But, which is where I will end up here, if we are not agreed on the notion of Nigeria, if we are not agreed on the culture of Nigeria, how would it be possible for the good to emerge, capture the state and use it for the benefit of Nigeria? So it means we have to redefine Nigeria. We have to redefine Nigeria politically. We have to redefine Nigeria culturally. We have to redefine Nigeria socially in relation to religions, economics, to all the dynamics, all the indices that make the modern state. And except we do that, 2023 would be a nightmare. I rest. Thank you very much.
Well, Professor Eghagha, thank you so much for that vibrant contribution. Very, very interesting. Thank you so much. So we'll come back again to you. May I call now on Dr. Fapohunda to please share with us his thoughts on the situation in Nigeria as being discussed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much and good evening to everybody. I appreciate being on the same platform with Dele Farotimi. I've heard his views on TV. I've got a copy of his book, Through the Voice of Reason. He has been so generous to share the book with us. I've just got about page 120 of it. I've not read it fully, but I will read it in the next 2 days. He has made all valid points, which nobody can argue against. They are all valid points. I would just say on the lighter mood, the identity being slaves. You know, the wise really deceive us so much and we are so gullible. Who says her skin is black? They define black scientifically in color. Is there anybody who is black? And then is there anybody who is white? White as snow. But they just made everything black males, black sheep, black everything, and then white wedding, white, all that. So we are mentally enslaved, no doubt about that. Nothing says that more than the Yoruba translation of Eshu. Eshu means Satan. Eshu is one of the good orishas of Yoruba land, but they made it to be negative. Anyway, on the 2 points that he made, which I agree with slight modification, we have class capture. We also have pseudo-ethnic capture. It's not really ethnic. They just disguised ethnicity. In my paper, you will see that what we need actually is true ethnic capture of power. If Yoruba ethnic nationality actually captures power over Yoruba land, the power will be used for every indigene, every citizen of Yoruba land. That's the slight modification. The next point he made is that we've actually slept on our rights since 1966 as we are being balkanized anyhow. So before our very eyes, we were dispossessed of our citizenship and our rights. What are we now going to do? How do we reclaim the rights that have been so lost carelessly and thoughtlessly? How do we recover ourselves? That's the challenge we have. Okay, when I speak audio like this, I normally have prepared notes. I have a document prepared for my talk. It's already on the platform of the Nigerian Roundtable. I posted it there. What is the situation now? As of today, there is no basis for a single country called Nigeria anymore. In 1966, the then Lieutenant Colonel Gowon made the speech, so it was withdrawn, that there was no basis for Nigerian unity. That statement is back staring us in the face. There is no basis for one country called Nigeria anymore. How did I arrive at that situation? The 1999 Constitution has made us to be slaves. Our interests are now subordinated to that of the colonels. Whether you vote or you don't vote in the National Assembly is immaterial. That's why they keep saying, go to a National Assembly, go to a National Assembly, because they know that we have been emasculated, we have been changed, and we can do nothing. And then, as you have had introduced, I'm now an officer of Afenifere. Afenifere have been the forefront of calling for restructuring, for change. What they're actually saying is that we want negotiated talks. We want talks so that we can reason as free citizens. If we sit down on a table, we can exchange ideas, and if we are fair, we can agree on the best way forward. That's Afenifere position all along. But now that the president has said he doesn't know what restructuring means, and the colonels say they don't know what it means, and we should educate them. So what are we going to do? Yoruba land now, at least I'm speaking now as a Yoruba person on this platform, we have had two tendencies. The first one is to say, oh, let us keep appealing, let us keep begging, let us keep press conferences, maybe reason will prevail so that we can sit down and talk. The second strand now is saying, this talk, I don't think these guys are listening, and they are so imbued with power now that it's even foolhardy to expect them to listen to reason, to say, please donate and surrender the power that you have acquired over 60 years, gradually, incrementally, you acquire so much power. While we were sleeping, while we were busy doing business, they were busy controlling all levers of power. Is it not foolhardy to assume that somebody would just surrender that and say, come, let's talk as brothers. We are now equal. Are we equal? We are not equal anymore. That's not the truth. We have to face reality. And I wrote a document, it's there. Look, the Japanese attacked United States in 1944, preemptive strike. The same way our brave attacked the 9th of July. They came from Abuja armed, and they attacked Yoruba in the night. They killed, and they dragged the bodies away. That's the same thing as what Japan did against the United States in 1944. That is it. Whether we like it or not, symbolically, whoever composed, it's not even the Nigerian Army. Nigerian Army said they are not involved. They just brought some small group together, and they came in the night, and they attacked Yoruba territory, and they violated our sensibility. Let that go on record. People are not talking about it. Okay, they also attacked Kenya, and they took Kano from there. So they are saying, you Igbos, shut up. You're there with your person. You Yorubas, if you don't behave, this is what we're going to do to you. That's the intent. That's the intent. So you shut up. You are in charge. You have no mouth to talk, not me to complain, because Igbo was not using military for it, was just doing rallies. You have no right to hold rallies, no right to talk. We are enslaved. We have been captured. That's just the truth. I won't speak much. Let us know that the idea that Nigeria is a single country is gone through the window. And we should not be afraid. We need a big country, 200 million. Census is even false. We are not up to 200 million. Where are the 200 million people? Just 3% addition every year since 1962, 3%. Nobody has died. Nobody has moved. Is that a census? We are now 250 million, 400 million. It's not fake. In my paper, which I already posted on the Roundtable platform, I've seen countries all over the world. Most countries have 5 million people, 9 million people. You know, Austria, where the chairman is, they are just 9 million. So who say Yoruba cannot? What do we need for 200 million people when we are all slaves? We should get off it that Nigeria cannot, and oh, let's have Nigeria. We'll create new names, the way Russia broke down and created 10, 15 countries. So what are we saying? From all indications, the two northern zones have exited from Nigeria. They have exited during the time of Obasanjo when they put religion at the front burner. The two northern zones have exited, unless we are pretentious. Once they subscribe to Sharia doctrine as a way of life, look at in Kano now. They are bringing so many policies in place. They are running their own country now. They are running their own country. It's just the truth. They have now want to be like Iran and maybe Iraq. We should not begrudge them now. They are free to do that. It's part of self-determination. But it's for us now to decide what we want to do with ourselves. What do we want to do with ourselves? The remaining 4 regions want to do. Are we going to be lamenting forever? They have taken their own lives in their hands and they are running it the way you wish. You are free to live in Kano. You are free to sell your house, sell your land, and move to where you want to move to. That's the bottom line, unless we are pretending. So what am I saying? The 4 remaining zones need to come together. The 2 zones have already exited. You don't need, I keep saying it it's pardon my vulgar something. The day a woman leaves the husband, it's not the day she packs out. She has already packed out mentally maybe 2-3 years earlier. Husband and wife, they are still living in the same house, but the woman has already arranged a little place where she will stay. She has furnished it. She has even changed job. Maybe in Nigeria, if your husband and wife in Lagos, the wife will arrange to move to Abuja on transfer. The husband is in Lagos. They are still their husband, but mentally they are already separate. People don't even go to court anymore about that anymore. Just move to Abuja, leave your husband in Lagos. Where's your husband? Oh, it's in Lagos. Where's your wife? It's in Abuja. That's what's happening now. So the 4 regions need to now work together. There are 2 possibilities. The first one is that we can work out a federal constitution for the 4 zones that eliminates that truly secular constitution. We cannot impose secularity on the 2 zones in the north. It is not possible unless we are not serious. Because religious doctrine, religious favor is not based on earthly compromises. It's not possible. So can we work out a constitution for those who want to believe in secularity? It might be Nigeria 1, maybe Nigeria 2, or Nigeria 2, Nigeria 1, if you want to use the word Nigeria. But there are 2 Nigerias now, effectively in my own mind. Can we work out a constitution? I know a group that is producing an alternative constitution to the one we now have. If the 4 regions, the South, the Southeast, the Southwest, and maybe elements of the Middle Belt, if they eventually agree to subscribe, we might have a different territorial configuration on that basis. If that option, then enough many countries out of Nigeria, we should not be afraid of it. Even you, and if they want to be a country, why not? If they want to be a country, why not? If they feel they can be on their own, why not? Look, in Europe, as far as I know, everything is based on cultural and language singularity. Sweden is for Swedish, Norway for Norwegians, Germany for Germans, Dutch, Holland. So language and culture is a unit of separation to have identity. You can actually have ethnic capture, therefore, not class capture. I believe in ethnic capture. If it's full ethnic involvement, if all Yorubas now is captured by full Yoruba people, Omoluabi people, who have track record of their family and their mind. If you are a Shekiri or you are Urubu, and Urubus capture the land being ruled by Urubu and the territory, and you are faithful to Urubu people and their culture, and you swear for your family name, what is wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Let us have true ethnic capture of a particular territory. Then there'll be sanctions. In Yoruba land, if you swear on Ogun, you are afraid of death. You don't steal with Ogun, you know? So I believe in ethnic capture in that light. Not Tinubu is Yoruba man, is now in charge of Yoruba land. That's not ethnic capture now. It's for himself and his family now. His wife, his children, his concubines. That's family capture, not even ethnic capture at all. So I'm trying to round up now. we need to organize the residual part of Nigeria to see whether we can work together if you still want a big territory. This platform should not, it's a small platform. We are not so many, just about 27 as I'm seeing us. We should not leave this meeting without some proactive agenda. What are we going to take away? Can we have a nucleus of people? Can we now start getting people together to see what we can do? Because talk is good, but talk is not everything. It's not everything. How do we reclaim our sovereignty? But let me warn at the end, power of or for control can never be surrendered by we just asking, oh, the Fulanis, please now. They are shooting down an aeroplane. They just burnt armor personnel carrier 2 days ago. It's a serious business. They are not joking with it. We are the one that's joking. So let's see whether this small forum can be a way forward to work with some other groups to form and a bigger platform. Let us forget about the 2 zones in the north, because religion is difficult to compromise, in my opinion. Can we work with the residual part of Nigeria and make something out of it? I appreciate Dele Farotimi. I would like to get in touch with him personally. I appreciate everybody. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Dr. Fapohunda, for those contributions and inputs you have made. You know, so basically we can see how complicated the problems are as we probe deeper and deeper into the challenges we are facing. But I don't want to talk much, so I would I'm going to call on Engineer Neyin to please make his contributions, and we'll come back to you later, Oti. So Engineer Neyin, you are welcome to the platform, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, during the introduction, you were not here when you were introduced, but notwithstanding. So can I hand over the platform to you now to make your contributions? I'm sure you heard what Barrister Farotimi said, and you also heard what Professor Eghagha said, and now also what Dr. Fapohunda has also said. So if you wish to add something and build on what they have said already. So the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. I think the fundamental issue is those of us down here, we got it wrong day one. You know, people capture power and leave you to dangle around money. At the end of the day, they now sit on everybody's head, and that is not fair enough. The utterances, they are really, really painful utterances. As an engineer and as a petroleum engineer, when you see somebody telling you the oil you have here, that oil is in so place and all that. The oil you have in the state of Texas, the state of Michigan is not saying it is their oil. So the utterances, they are very painful utterances and very, very uncivilized utterances that we're hearing. That is even more aggravating than some of the things happening. And these are supposed to be people who are learned, professors talking things like that. It really gives me a lot of concern. It is very obvious that the country is not what we expected. Some of us existed before independence, before independence. So as far as we are concerned, the independence came and everybody thought we're going to have a big country, Nigeria, where everybody will have equity and fairness. But it is now a mirage. I'm still very disappointed in the way our people down the south here are looking at this whole thing. Nobody come to your place and vandalize you. Get vandalized. Even in a place where I'm staying in the country, in Upiomi, just 2 weeks ago, people who have cattle in their own ranch there, Fulani herdsmen came into Upiomi to harass and lynch people to carry away the cattle because anything cattle belongs to them. This just happened about a week plus now, here in Delta State. So you hear of cattle ranching in the north or whatever. This happened about a week ago, right behind, in front of my house. So what are we talking about? It is not mandatory. In 1999, I was in a panel discussion in Abuja. Kunja Iwala and some other people were there. I told them, I said, in a nation of nations, there is no nation. Because I started the discussion by saying, Bokwenu, the answer, this one, like that. When you said Nigeria, the whole thing was quiet. After that, I told everybody, I say, in a nation of nations, there is no nation. Until we as Nigerians decide to have a nation properly, where everybody is recognized, then we have not started. But with what I'm seeing now, the gap is getting wider and wider, and the slavery is getting more and more per day. A situation where people in authority are claiming ignorance to realize that other people exist, then what are we talking about? You're just like a passenger. People have written over and over positions in the country, whatever. A sensible human being or a sensible government will wake up and say, hey, what these people are writing here, defense, this one, these things are not right. Let us moderate them so that everybody feel wanted. Nobody cares. Nobody cared about that. The status quo remains. So what are they saying? We're just in a dilemma. And I think the earlier people sit down to talk and agree, the better. But from all indications, some people just feel they don't need to talk to anybody. We have it all. That is going to be short-lived because human beings, they are interactive animals. It will get to a head on where people will say, hey, no more, we can't take this trash. And I think the government should be listening to people and start making amends to rectify things so that people will feel as part of the country. Because for now, a lot of people, even down south here, don't think they are part of the country because of the way they have been treated. So that is very, very serious issue. And if you look at the industry, for example, basically, everything is just lopsided. The smartest engineers in this country does not come from one particular area. There's smart people all over the place. But look at the organizations. It is like some people are just nobody. I remember coming into Chevron 1979 as an engineer into Gulf. It was like, where is this one coming from? Because there are some ethnic groups that are the engineers, you know. Oh, now people, you don't go to school, you know. So what are you talking about? So that same scenario I saw in 79 has played into the national circle where even those who felt they were dominating then, they are now being dominated. So all of us were in trouble. So we must wake up and say, no, if you have to have Sharia, go ahead. It's not mandatory. I don't see why in the constitution they draw up, there shouldn't be opportunity for people to abrogate. If they want to move on their own. They said it's not possible. Why is it not possible? The United Nations rules are there. If a set of people feel they no longer want to be party, they leave. Very simple. It's not by fault. But this one is like, whether you like it or not, you got to stay there, otherwise we hammer your head. And that is very, very painful. It is more painful for people like us at our age, seeing children, great-grandchildren going into worst slavery that we ever thought of in life. So something needs to happen. And I think people should wake up to the challenge. The federal government, in their own reasoning, know that this cannot continue too long. So basically, most of the things they've said, there's no point repeating them, but it is a very, very painful situation. So I think with time, either we come together as a nation and discuss issues. So that's it. Or let people just find their ways and create units. The Soviet Union was so big. They split into several countries. There was no bullet shot or anything. And those countries, they're all moving on. So I don't see why this should be anything different. Either we sit down and have a full discussion and have a true federalism where things are done according. The US is true federalism. It's clear. Every state have their own setting. This one, you put everybody in one box and you keep hammering people at the mercy, just at the mercy of some people. It shouldn't be. It's an aberration. And I don't think in this day and age, we should all fold our hands and let this happen. Let's go back to the drawing board. If the drawing board does not favor and people, something got to happen for people to have their independence and freedom. But I still hope that common sense will make people think twice and go back to the drawing board and renegotiate this country and have a proper constitution that's a true federalism. If that does not happen, it's just a question of time. It will happen like it happened in the Soviet Union. But I just pray that we should be able to sit down and do things clean in a civilized manner without getting into any monkey waters. Thank you.
Well, thank you very, very much, Engineer Neyin, for this very, very interesting, concise, but very precise contribution that touches on what needs to be done, because we can't just be folding our arms and begging and nothing is happening. So thank you so much. Oti, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so what we do is, the floor is yours, so just keep on,
okay.
Just go on talking, okay. Unfortunately, we don't have your image, you know, so I go on, please.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. I want to use this opportunity to appreciate everyone here present. I particularly would like to thank Barrister Farotimi and all the other panelists for accepting the invitation of the Global Roundtable to speak with us today. I'd like to lend my voice to that of the chief host and the convener of this webinar to welcome you all to the third edition of the Nigerian Global Roundtable. Thank you very much for coming. Now, the Nigerian Global Roundtable is here to contribute to what other well-meaning Nigerians are doing to take Nigeria from the brinks of disintegration to a united and solid Nigeria. Today's topic, Nigeria at Crossroads, the way forward out of our mental slavery, is just in time. All other speakers have hit the nail on the head. I will not have to repeat what they have said. We all are aware of the situation we find ourselves in Nigeria. The entity called Nigeria is in a state of potpourri at the moment, and we all think if nothing is done, she might just be history. Now, we are at a crossroad. That's what we all have agreed at this point in time. We do not seem to know where we're going. Quickly, I'll just remind us of a poem that I read when I was in secondary school. It goes thus. Again, I lend my voice, my credence to Professor Eghagha. This poem was written by a Ghanaian poet, Kwesi Bru. It goes thus. We've come to the crossroad, but I must either leave or come with you. I lingered over the choice, but in the darkness of my doubts, you lifted the lamp of love, and I saw in your face the road that I should take. Now, at this point, where are we? Are we still doubting? Do we want to remain in Nigeria? From indications from what we're seeing, some of us probably would want to take a leave of Nigeria. But are there those who want to remain in Nigeria? Is Nigeria actually lifting the lamp of love? Is Nigeria really calling us, asking us to coerce, asking us to remain? Is that a picture we're seeing in Nigeria? Is that a message we're getting? Is that the narratives? So the choice is either of us. But at this point, I would like to ask, and I would like to request that the collective responsibility, the collective decision that we have to take today may have to be perhaps to remain in Nigeria. But if we must remain in Nigeria, Barrister Farotimi, other speakers have already laid the foundations of what we need to do. So without belaboring, without reiterating what they have all said, I'm just going to go quickly to some nitty-gritty. My own contribution today will be to take us to the grassroots. The leaders are there. The authorities are doing their work. What about the followers? What about the people? What about the citizens? What are we doing? I think the citizens have a responsibility. Enough of the whining, enough of whimpering, enough of complaining. I think the citizens will have to take the bull by the horn. They have to go down and hold their leaders responsible at their own level. If we must coerce, if we must talk about going back to the 1999 Constitution, if we must restructure, some people have to push from the grassroots. It has to be a bottom-up situation at this point in time. I mean, Buhari is there up in Abuja. He's very far away. He probably does not even know what's going on. We all are ranting, we are crying, we are complaining. Perhaps he doesn't even know what's going on. He's not getting the message. But how does he get the message? Just like some speakers rightly pointed out, the North is even more impoverished than the South. I equally lived in the North. I know what's going on. You need to see the Almajiris. You need to see these kids that are abandoned by their parents. They are sent to some Almajiri schools. If you see these ones, they are all sorry sides. This situation is not worse in the South than in the North. It's all the same thing. But what am I saying here? There is need for the masses, for the citizens to hold, first and foremost, the people at their doorsteps responsible for this situation. They have to go ahead and speak to their local government chairmen. They have to go ahead and hold their governors responsible. These people have to be pushed because at their level, they're very comfortable. There has to be a way of making them uncomfortable. So who will do that? Who will bail this cat? It has to be the citizens themselves. Communities will have to get together. It's not an individual thing. It's not my responsibility. It's not Dr. Neyin's. It's none of us here alone. We all have to synergize in this task ahead of us. Now, it's possible the citizens, members of the grassroots, the masses, perhaps do not know that they have a right to actually call the leaders to question. So they will need to be enlightened to know this. They need to be enlightened to know that the local governments, the governors have a responsibility to them. The masses have to be enlightened, they have to be sensitized. That awareness has to be created so they know that, yes, it is their job. So what I was just trying to say that the masses have to be enlightened, they have to be sensitized to the fact that they have a responsibility to hold their leaders responsible. The mentality have to change. We have to actually change our mentality. The question of my father, mother is in government, therefore it's our turn to enrich ourselves. These are the little things. You might see them as little, but these are contributory factors to what's going on today. So this has to change. The masses have to know that they have a responsibility to recall their representatives who are not doing the right thing. But again, the masses have to be sensitized because at this level, people do not seem to know what to do. We're talking about mental slavery. We're actually in a slave environment in Nigeria. So for that reason, they have to be told what to do. There has to be some form of synergy between the local people and even those in authority, if that would ever happen. We have situations of local government chairmen. For example, a particular local government chairman told me some time back that, oh, I'm okay with my imprest. A local government chairman, the money that was meant to purchase stationaries for your office and you're pocketing it. I mean, that looks very minute, but it's very, very important. That mentality has to change. And how would that happen? The masses have to unite and go to the doors. They have to carry placards. There has to be some form of protests. There has to be some form of actions. Because at the moment, everybody is quiet. We're all complaining. We are whining. We are whimpering. Enough of rhetorics now. We've been talking, just like you said, at the end of this meeting, what's going to happen? Situations where senators who have been serving, supposedly serving, for close to 10, 15 years, who have nothing to show, who has only been empowering himself, his immediate families and friends, turns around and says he wants to be governor. For God's sake. Who has to stop that? Somebody has to stop that, and it is the masses who should stop that. Enough of being accomplices. We have acquiesced for too long. We have supported them for too long. We've been so quiet for too long. So it is high time the people of the grassroots took up their mantle and let these people know your time has come. At this point, I'm going to just quickly draw our attention to a few things, other suggestions. It will be very important. We have a problem with the judiciary. The three arms of government must live up to their expectations. These are clear indications that things are not working. We have situations where the judiciary is not even able to prosecute politicians and government officials who are found wanting. How does that happen? Again, it has to be the people at the grassroots to ginger. They have to push, and they have to keep pushing. Otherwise, we go nowhere. Now, you want to ask, how do these people do this? How do the masses? Or what about when they protest, they get maimed, they get killed? Now, again, we're talking about enlightenment. Even the police, they are handicapped. They are hamstrung. They just do what they're told to do. But if they are enlightened, they too would equally need some form of sensitization. They would need to be enlightened. They will need to be told. That awareness has to be made. They have to be made to understand that whatever is going on today is going to be in their interest if we protest. Therefore, we need your protection. They need to learn to understand that they are there to protect the people. They are there to keep internal security. Therefore, if we are protesting, we're carrying placards, you should be for us and not against us. Because what we are doing is going to be beneficiary to you. You are going to be a beneficiary. So if we come down to the level of the police and the soldier and explain these things to them, I'm sure they will understand, because all they understand today is receiving whatever from the top. Have you seen that? Have you seen situations where even the police have to go on rampage? For example, in my country, in France, it got to a point, the police went on rampage and said, enough is enough. So we need to find a way to sensitize the police to understand that whenever people protest, it is not against them, but it is for them. I just go quickly to the banking sector, talking about stealing money or talking about laundering money. All of these are little areas that we don't see, we're not talking about. If a bank official, for example, does not connive with a public servant, with a politician who probably have stolen money, the politician, the public official will not be able to hide whatever they steal. How is it possible that a public servant pays millions of dollars as school fees for his child? How does that happen? If not that the bank official connives with him, transfer that money, how would that have happened? So again, it is possible that we talk. All of this when we're talking about synergy, there is need for us to really meet and discuss with different people at different sectors, different segments of our society. So At this juncture, I'm just going to quickly round up. I'm not going to continue to repeat what we've all said, but it will be important that even the legislature, members of the House of Assembly, the senators, are actually called to question. They're actually reminded of their responsibility to the people they promised to serve. The executive, we've talked about all these complaints. We're talking about lopsided dealings, lopsided appointments, talking about ethnicism, talking about tribalism, and all that. We're all crying foul. Again, I'm going to conclude by saying we need to get the people of the grassroots to hold those at the top responsible for our plight. They have to be enlightened to know their rights so that they can act. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop here for now.
So, thank you very, very much, Madam Oti, for those very, very interesting contributions and the suggestions and the ideas you have brought into the debate. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Before we go back to Barrister Farotimi, I would like to just check if there is anybody who has asked a question, so that while he talks, maybe he can also just take that into consideration. I can see that Professor Olubumi Otubanjo has asked 2 questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to enable Professor Olubumi to ask his question, pose his question directly to the panelists and the main speaker. So Professor Olubumi Otubanjo, you can unmute your microphone and ask the 2 questions that you have already asked on the chat page. Are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay, so the floor is yours. You know, you have asked 2 questions, so I will give you the opportunity of asking the questions yourself, you know. Okay, so go on, please.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate all the speakers, but I'm rather concerned. We just talk in general terms about redefining Nigeria, renegotiating, and we just use terms. What are the actions that should be taken? I think we should be emphasizing that so that the people at the top, in quotes, will appreciate the kind of changes that are needed. And I was a bit taken aback that the issue of poverty was not addressed. We've looked at the issue of ethnicity and so on, but the poverty factor is a uniting factor amongst all the people. So I think we need to address that seriously. Also, earlier on, it was mentioned that we need a change in mentality. That is going to take a long time to come, because it has just not started. It has been on since the colonial master left us. And we ourselves are inflicting ourselves with colonial mentality. Like it was stated that even we are not appreciative of the color of our skin. So these are issues that I would like this forum to be taken beyond the round table and recommendation made to the appropriate people. The people that are ruling us now cannot give what they don't have. So if we claim to have what they don't have, then we should pass it on to them. Those are my comments, and I hope my questions on how to negotiate Nigeria will be itemized to the benefit of our rulers. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor. So now the microphone goes back to Barrister Farotimi. Maybe he might want to also just address the question Professor has just asked. And of course, that question is posed to everybody. But in the second round now, let us be a bit shorter in our responses, please, so that we don't stay here for too long. So, Barrister Farotimi, the floor is yours, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. As I said earlier when we were starting out, it's a privilege to be amongst erudite men, particularly people I can look at and call old men, and women too, whose experiences far outstrip my own. My Yoruba ancestors who say that that means that however wise or knowledgeable a young person might be, they can only be as wise as their experience permits. So when a person is as old and seasoned as the like of Professor Eghagha and yourself, and each and every one of the other persons I've been on this panel with, I have learned. But let me quickly say this. In setting out my thought, when we started out, I intentionally sought to provide the truthful basis for the positions that I have taken over time. I am not blind to the ethnic capture of Nigeria. If you have read any of my works, you'll find that I have said very clearly that there is an Islamist Fulani agenda that has been at the root of Nigeria's problem from as far back as 1966. The ethnic capture of the Nigerian state is such a notorious fact that one would have to be intellectually indolent and particularly fraudulent to either pretend that it does not exist or to deny its existence. It is there and it is chronic. But there is something that I think we might not be paying attention to that is very critical to an appreciation of exactly the evolutionary nature of that ethnic capture and how it does not really count so much as ethnic capture. Let me share this. Let's imagine that feudalism is a virus. That virus of feudalism captured the Nigerian state. And then it began to remake the Nigerian state in its own image. And it has created its own image up and down the length and breadth of Nigeria. Some of the people it even created who were beneficiaries of its powers, who were extensively useful to it in its nefarious agenda and in its institutionalization of its precepts. Somebody like Obasanjo, for instance, today laments and was one of the earliest identifier and definer as well of the Fulani Islamist agenda. I've written on this extensively and I don't want to waste too much time speaking to it, but that is not because I want to deny its existence, but because we don't have all the time. But suffice to say that that Fulanist agenda has crept across. So Nigeria has been essentially Fulanized. So those of us who see any anomaly in having a feudal system of governance, we are the ones who are constantly bellyaching. Nobody else is bellyaching. So you will not hear an Eghagha bellyaching. You will not hear an Amechi or an Akpabio or even, what's this one now? The one that was paired with Eghagha. Can't remember his name now, the SAN. You will not hear any one of these people bellyaching about Fulani agenda. You will not hear Aregbesola talk about Fulani agenda. Orji Uzor is not going to talk about it because they are all beneficiaries. Those of them who can see it now but were past beneficiaries, their lips are sealed. When you begin to speak to you can have people come out and speak to the emotive issues of the failure of security as governors of the southern state. But you will notice that even they are reticent about speaking to demands that are fundamental to self-determination rights of the citizens themselves. So they are fine with a reduction of the Nigerian to a state less than citizenship, as long as they find collaboration with the hegemony that is governing the state. So we need to understand very quickly that where is in our own hand. Now, the loss of memory to which Professor Eghagha alluded when he spoke of the travel companion who had very little understanding of the Civil War. It is not by accident, and I speak to it because it is annexed to something that Professor Olubanjo spoke to as well. And that specifically really is about the weaponization of poverty and ignorance. People have lost memories institutionally because Nigeria desired that they forgot their history. So the Civil War is not taught because if you teach history, people will learn the lessons of history. If people had learned the lessons of history, perhaps you wouldn't have the readiness to resort to arms in prosecution of the right to self-determination, which manifests in its extreme as a demand for secession, which are themselves reactions to injustice and inequities. So when you find that history has not been taught and people have no understanding of the issues, you find quickly that they don't even understand that the issues they are complaining about today, they were the same issues that led to the Civil War. They were unresolved then, and they are still in existence now. So these are issues that we all have to think about. Now, when you talk about poverty question, this is me responding to Professor Bumi Olubanjo now. The poverty question is not an accident. It is not accidental that every time you see feudalism in a space, what you find is the weaponization of poverty and the weaponization of ignorance. If you keep people poor, they are constantly thinking about what to eat, what to drink, how to survive from day to day. They cannot think beyond the day, so they do not challenge the powers that be. So it is by design that they are kept poor and permanently on a rat race, so that their mind do not begin to consider lofty ideas. It's not by accident that Buhari is looking for cattle routes and you have Bezos going to space. That is by design. It's deliberate. So I don't want to take too much time since we've already spent a lot of time. But if we're looking for the way forward and the tactics, I actually set these out. We have an entire section in my book, which you can download free. We set out the tactics, and Professor Olubanjo actually alluded to it. No, it wasn't Professor Olubanjo. I believe it was Madam Oti. Yes, she was the one. She spoke about protest. Protest will never do anything in Nigeria. You said as much. You spoke about education. We have to educate the people. I spoke to this in my earlier address. We have to educate the people to connect them to the issues. Not everybody will come onto the street to protest. But if those who are not coming out to protest are connected to the issues that have brought some people out onto the street, it means that the policeman would have been connected to the issues. His children might be in the crowd, so he too will think twice before shooting. The difference between a revolution and anarchy is the presence of a plan that you have sold to the people before you presume to call them out onto the street. The June 12 protests were the biggest protests in this country. But what did it better us? It bettered the 1999 Constitution. I was chairman of Binu Konu. We were affiliated to Afenifere. And I, as chairman of Binu Konu, led a delegation to Chief Bola Ige in his house in Bodija. We pled with him and made our case. We were all lawyers. Members of Binu Konu, we were all in the law school at the time. We pled that Afenifere should refuse to participate in the Abdulsalami transition, but insist on a fundamental restructuring of Nigeria. That is still the same thing that needs to be demanded now. But imagine the level of mobilization that was in place at that time. We were deemed too radical. were deemed impractical. This is where we are today, but that is where we need to go back to. Mobilize, strategize, connect the people to it, then presume to call a protest. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Barrister Farotimi, for that response. So I will just move on quickly to save time, to Professor Eghagha so that he can also respond. So anybody who has any question you would like to ask, either you raise your hand, there is a function of raising your hand, or you write on the chat that you have a question, and I will see if I can enable you to put your question directly to the panelists. Okay, so Professor Eghagha, please, the floor is yours to respond your second round, taking also the question of Professor Lubumi also into consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Moderator, co-discussants. It's been a worthwhile exercise. I believe that we must continue to talk, exchange ideas. I've benefited from the discourse this evening, listening to diversity of views. There is one fundamental, which is that nobody is satisfied with the current state of things in the country. About specifics when it comes to restructuring the country, there are different documents in circulation. As far as I'm concerned, the confab, the national confab document, which the Jonathan administration put together, that is one way to go. We had earlier on suggested the 1963 Constitution. So those are two options that are available. However, how do we get them implemented? That could be the real question. For the National Assembly, as currently constituted, cannot be trusted. It is partisan. It is also divided into North and South when it comes to the big issues. So how then do we force the hand of this government to ensure that there is a discussion? All right, perhaps that is the very big question. I believe that with agitations, with powerful forces, persons, sociocultural groups, political groups, putting pressure on the government and drawing attention to the continuously degenerating situation, the government will ultimately be forced to listen. Now, I also believe that if at a point we get to a break point and the government doesn't listen, other things will happen. Nigeria has always got to the brink, and finally something happens. And I believe something will happen. But the practical thing to do will be for different voices to be outspoken. All right, the government has effectively muffled protests. Protests, for instance, are one of the fundamentals of a democratic society. The right of the people to protest. And the current persons in government made use of this tool under President Jonathan. All right, when they seized Lagos and turned Lagos, made Lagos ungovernable, almost made Nigeria ungovernable. Now it's time for Nigerians to speak out on the big issues. They are being intimidated. That is not, it's not the way to go. That is one of the things we must criticize. And if we don't allow that, then non-state actors will seize control of the situation. Are we happy with what was going on in the Southeast, with the level of killings and all that, both good and bad, so to speak, So any government that refuses to listen, that refuses to have discussions, will force the hand of the people into things that may not be savory. And that is what gradually descends into violence. So we need to continue to call on the government. Now, there is nothing sacrosanct about Nigeria as it is currently configured. As far back as 1992-93, when the IBB administration annulled the election, I was with a group of academics. At that time, I was a teacher at Ondo State University. We led the delegation to Pajashi in a war. And what we said at that time was, enough of this configuration called Nigeria. The old man listened to us and then told us a few things, you know, how the North would dangle power before our leaders in the South, and then they would change it. You know. So we must continue to hold this dialogue, we must continue to push, we must continue to talk, internationalize the discourse, use all mediums, use all channels, all levels. We'll continue to push. Ultimately, something will give. I'll stop there at this time and yield the floor to the next speaker, whom I think is Dr. Fapohunda.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. So I think the question remains.
Okay, several quick points.
Wait a minute. I was just saying that the point is we are talking and we keep on pushing, and the other party is not listening, and they are saying that they are not prepared to talk, nothing is negotiable. At some point, I think we really need to work out strategies. How do we really get the other parties to the table? You know, I think that is what Professor Olubumi was also trying to suggest, which is also what Madam Oti Ayenbi also were trying to direct our attentions to. Anyway, sorry, Dr. Fapohunda, please go on, please. Thank you.
Okay, Sister Oti made the point that maybe Buhari doesn't hear. Buhari hears, Buhari knows, Buhari is the pilot of the ship. It's not somebody who just, don't let us give him a false credit that he doesn't know what he's doing. What to do? Nigeria has unraveled, no doubt about it. We have two options: uncontrolled demolition the way it is, and two things will happen, whether we do nothing or not. The fuel price, it has to go to 200-300 very shortly, whether we like it or not. Maybe that will waken up people. They will smoke people out of their ashore, because they are borrowing money heavily to just subsidize petrol. They cannot face Nigeria, that there is no more petrol at 162 naira. That's number one. Number two, they just borrowed $3 billion. Okay, so they prop up the naira. Maybe this year or early next year, there will be no more dollar to prop up the naira. So dollar will go to 600, 700. Those are two indices that will demolish the system finally, as far as I'm thinking. But second point is that when you have uncontrolled demolition, then you have no means of salvaging goodness out of what we have. Now, in this panel, in this forum, we are not poor, we are not looking for food. It is not the people who are hungry on the streets that will solve the problem. We are not the one that need to be given 500 naira or 5,000 to vote. We are the one who are blessed. We have got enough from Nigeria, we have got enough from Providence, and we should now go beyond our talk. We are enlightened. We have to manage the demolition of Nigeria. And I made the point, from this point onwards, we need to count ourselves. Those who are willing, the secretariat of the roundtable, we have to do something. I know you are based in Austria. It gives you a lot of leverage because you are not going to be afraid like some of us who are in Abuja. I'm not even saying, because just 10 kilometers away, they kidnapped 6 people last week, and they collected 2 million naira each from them. So we are not safe here at all. But even then, we need to now form a network. We need to have a network of people who are willing to at least put mind together. Nobody talking to this so-called poor people anyway. No publication is out, no leaflets, no posters to even explain issues. Minimally, all we need to do is to even boycott cow meat. It will cripple the economy of the Fulanis who are carrying guns. But we are the one killing cows to eat all the time. So there has to be a strategic platform to mobilize. So that's my plea for this platform. We have to be, I'm already part of it, but then we have to do more. The more we can do to create a platform that, what are we going to do in the next 3 months? What are we doing in December? What are we doing throughout next year? Somebody has to chart a course with milestones. We may not deliver it, but why can't we say October 1 next year? We want to reconfigure, we want to publish the condition that Dele has in his book. I have another version too, under Voice of Reason. Can't we harmonize and publish an alternative constitution for Nigeria? Let's see who can subscribe to it. Somebody has to lead some of these initiatives, and one person cannot do it. That's my plea to this forum. So I don't go away again after a very beautiful talk. We all know what the issues are, but how do we chart the course with timelines and say by October 1 next year, this is our end goal. We may not achieve it, but at least we must state a goal of what we want to do. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Fapohunda, for that interjection. Is Madam Uchi now available? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so can you, before we go to restore the original, the way it was planned. So it's up to you. So the floor is yours. So to comment on what has been said. Taking also what Professor Olubumi also said into consideration.
Exactly. That's what I'm going to address. Professor Olubumi spoke very well, talking about impoverishment. And as a matter of fact, Barrister Farotimi also addressed that point. The question of impoverishment really, really has to be taken into consideration, because a hungry man is an angry man. People are really, really hungry. And just like Barrister said, it's a deliberate attempt to shut the people up. So how do we unravel this? It's a collective responsibility. Dr. Fapohunda said something, we all have to come together to agree on what to do. We have to strategize. We have to come to have a common voice, because individuals are doing it at their own different level, but nobody's listening. Perhaps if there's a common voice now, a very strong voice that will now come together and say, look, enough is enough. This is what we want. You have to go ahead and put some of these things in place. We're talking about implementation. It's not as if these laws are not there. It's not as if these things are not there. But the question of implementation, for example, talking about impoverishment, we have consumer council. Ordinarily, people can no longer buy food. How do we get food to the doorstep of the poor man? That is the question that Madam Olubuni was talking about, was asking. So how do we get that? Again, for me, I still think that the masses would have to rise. The masses would have to cry out. The masses would have to hold their governors at their doorsteps, because the governors are with them, the local governments are with them. If the masses keeps crying, and perhaps I'm talking from the point of view of the country that I live in. Ordinarily, we're talking about health certificates, a certificate to be able to go into a cinema. People are on the streets saying no, they are kicking against it. The masses we are too complacent. There must be need for the masses to be enlightened, to know they have a right to make demands. We are hungry, we want food. They should go to their local governments. When they go to the local government councils to protest daily, the same local government chairman will cry to their governors and say, look, we are tired. Governors will see these things and governors will say, okay, members of the House of Assembly, senators, now Abuja. Personally, my idea is that the masses have to rise. We have, now elections are coming up, 2023. Whether you like it or not, in Nigeria, elections will hold. Nigerians are not willing to go into any war. I don't think so. It will not happen. But it is the same responsibility. You and I would have to sensitize the masses and let them know that they have a right to make demands. We have to make demands. Otherwise, we go nowhere. Otherwise, the senators will come back with their bags of rice, bags of salt, and give to the poor people. They will go there and thumbprint. They will go and turn the votes around. And then senator, somebody will be announced a winner. He goes, gets to the Senate, and what does he do? He forgets about the masses. But the moment the masses are enlightened and they know that they don't have to be accomplices to these politicians, to even government functionaries, if they are asked questions, I think they will begin to sit up. But they need to be enlightened. This aspect has to be taken into consideration. But who will do that? You and I, us here at this panel. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Oti. So let me move quickly to Engineer Neyin. Anybody who has questions to ask, you better do that now, because we are now entering the last round, you know. So if you have any question to ask, raise your hands now, or indicate that where your name is so that we can call you to ask your question. After Engineer Neyin, we are doing the last round, and then we are rounding up because we have spent some time here already. So if you have any question to ask, do that now so that we can accommodate you. Okay, thank you. So sorry, Engineer Neyin, please, the floor is yours, please. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I've been very patient listening. One of the people that asked questions said we should be proposing solutions or answers to the problems. Well, like I said before, what we need is true federalism. And that means coming down to go through, put a proper constitution in place that will reflect the freedom of every person wherever they are, and let the states be re-federated country. But the point is, how do you achieve that? First and foremost, the Senate, the House of Rep, that is where laws are being made. And in most cases, things that will change things to be in the proper way, when you put it to the floor for voting, then the whole thing falls off because of the numerical strength from both north and south. So equity we cannot get because of the variation in terms of population. And you're looking at democracy, so somebody make a proposal, they vote, and at the end of the day, it gets overwhelming results. Look at things like the PIB, for example. There is nowhere in the world where you go and keep 30% for frontier areas. The normal thing you do, you divide the place into OPLs. Those who are interested in business will go in there and acquire it, explore for oil. Now you want to take farms, which are scarce farms, you keep it out, say to explore frontier district. The government has no business looking for oil. It is purely a business concern. Lay the place out as OPL. People who are interested will go in there, do the assessment work, and produce the oil. So what we are doing, by the time you put it to vote, because of this skewed setting in terms of north and south population, you cannot win. And as long as that continues, then to get a true federalism is going to be tough. So I still believe that common sense should tell everybody that we have to strive to get a true federalism. How we're going to do that? Because it goes back to the Senate, goes back to the House of Assembly or House of Rep. So that is a major concern as far as I'm concerned. As long as the type of voting we are seeing on issues that are very sensitive are being handled in these tribal lines and sentiments, then the chances of really getting to where we're going is very slim. I just pray that we don't get to hiccup. The other thing that people mentioned is about sensitizing people. The lady is in Austria, where it's a civilized world. In this part of the world, if you have a dissenting voice, you are classified as a rebel. So under that condition, most people are a little bit careful to go on the streets. In Austria, you can wake up, 20, 30 people, just say, look, we are not satisfied with this situation. You carry your card, be on the road. Nobody's going to chastise you. But here, if you try it, even a local politician will call somebody, beat these people up, and that's it. So there's a lot to do. And because of the way we are structured, it is a very, very rough track. I think educating people will be okay, but you find out too that education here is going down the drain, whether it's university or whatever. So when people are hungry, they are looking at where they'll get food to eat. Their sense of reasoning will be different. So somebody mentioned that I think is deliberate. When you're hungry, you be busy thinking of how to get food and all that. So where are you going to reason to see you want to change or you need a true federalism when you don't have food on the plate? So I think these are some of the things we need to handle, and hopefully, I think the government, the federal government, was sensitive enough to realize that if they are taking this thing for a joke, when the ships are down, they will regret the actions. I thank you all for the patience to discuss these issues. As long as we have opportunity to talk, maybe it might fly, but it's a long haul we are going. And I wish you all well, and I wish the country well, and just hope that people will come to reason and do the needful. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Engineer Neyin. I know as an oil man, the oil aspect that you have raised, very, very important and very crucial. These things can only happen in a country like Nigeria, unfortunately. But let's see, as we move on, I think one of the things that I think is coming out here is about the networking, it's about how to find ways to see how we can join hands together to achieve some of the things that we are talking about, we have been talking about for years now. So, but we are not summarizing now. So I'm passing on the question again from the participants. Is there anybody who has a question? Because this is the opportunity now, and it's going to close very soon because we are rounding up now. Is there anybody with any question that you want to ask? You have the opportunity of directing the question to the panels. Okay, Mr. Isi Agboaye has raised his hands. He wishes to ask a question. So I'm going to enable you to ask your question so that the panel in the final round can take your question because we are now rounding up. This is the final round now. So just a minute.
Yeah, I think so. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, we can hear you. So go on with your
question. Good evening. My name is Isi Agboaye. Please, I'd just like to ask a simple question. In the midst of all these mess, how come our people are so quiet? Students were on the streets. During EndSARS, just a few kids were there struggling, and the majority of our people were just home, quiet. Don't you think if we all go on the streets, things might change? If we are waiting on the Senate and the House of Reps, I don't know what we might be able to achieve with them. So I don't know. My simple question is, why are we so quiet? Why can't we all just hit the streets and do something for once to change Nigeria? For how long are we going to remain like this? That's all. That's all I want to ask. I don't know. I'm frustrated.
Well, thank you very much for that very...
I can answer.
Wait a minute. I just wanted to say that Barrister Rotimi was a president of Students' Union during his time as a student. So he might also like to respond to that later in the final round, because I also wonder why the Nigerian students have become what they are now, unlike the way they used to be in the 70s and in the 80s and even up to the beginning of the 90s. So what has happened to them? Just to buttress your question, in addition to the working class, or just, is it only hunger, or is it just lack of interest, or are they really, is it the enslavement? What's going on?
I can answer.
Yes, please go on. Yeah. But if you answer now, you change the answer, but then we will have to jump you, or rather skip you in the final round. But you can answer. Go on. So this is your final round now, because we are ending. Everybody has only...
Actually, the now president in Nigeria now president is elected by the government through the back door, and it has a BMW car that I see in Abuja. Now president. So the corruption has really eaten to everybody. But the main issue, why are people not coming out? People have come out. Okay, people demonstrated in Lagos about 2 weeks ago. We are contributing money now to go and feed them in detention. They are there now for almost 3 weeks. Okay, if we didn't make effort, if you are shot by in Nigeria, it's something that will suffer. The state has terrorized everybody, and you are just facing guns. Not that people are not interested, but you just pay with your life. That's just the truth of the matter. That's why we in this group have to come up with creative ways. It should be sit at home, not to go to the streets. You can't use the conventional method of, rally. They'll just shoot you and they'll kill you and nothing will happen. All the people died during a dollar riot in Ikodu Road. Who knows their names up to now? 4 Yorubas, Eghagha plane to Niger. They became destitute at the end. People are seeing all these things, so they cannot just come out. That's the reason why in this we have to find creative ways of civil disobedience. Maybe just one day in a month, like environmental time, just stay at home for 3 hours. If all the streets are cleared of everybody, one day in a month, to show that we are not happy with the system, that might be one way to demonstrate resolve. But I cannot go out to the street because I'll just be shot. The system doesn't care for life at all. See, they keep people in the Igbo's house, they carry their body away. People cannot even know the body up to now. But for the trace of blood in the house of Igbo, you would not have known 2 people were shot. The wickedness of the system is too much for civil protests. That's the truth.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you have made a very important point. Professor Lubumi just also wrote that our followership is also compromised. So people are being shot, but even amongst ourselves, we don't tend to also coordinate with one another truthfully and honestly, so we are also, compromised as followers. But let me now go back to, we are rounding up now, please, so these are the final statements. So Barrister Farotimi, please, your final statements, we are rounding up.
All right, thank you very much. I don't know how good the quality of the audio will be because I left my location. Driving, trying to find my way home now. But I'm saying that because it runs into the issues and the questions that has been asked. The first of those questions is the one as it relates to the relative timidity and quietness of the Nigerian people, particularly what used to be the critical segment, the students. Why have they suddenly become so tame? Baba Fapohunda went forward. He pointed out the fact that the current NANS president has an official car tagged clearly NANS president with a number plate. So the NANS position has become a government appointment, a way to also garner some money from the system. So the NANS president no longer serves the interest of the Nigerian student. Yeah, it no longer serves the interest of the Nigerian student, but serves the interest of the Nigerian state. and the interest of the Nigerian state and that of the Nigerian people or the students are not the same. So what you find is that, yes, there is timidity, but that timidity is not accidental. It is by design. It is by deliberate effort, compromise, intimidation. As a university student, it became clear to me very quickly that I stood a greater chance of being expelled or killed as an activist rather than as a member of a university cult, many of whom worked for the university authorities and were protected by the university authority and the state. So whilst my own career as a student union leader might be cut short, the career of the cult boy is almost always guaranteed, except when they fall out of line or have quarrels with their godfathers. So now, why are we like this? As I have said, it's by deliberate design. However, there are some very key things that have been said here that I must touch on, and that is the fact that Baba said it. He cannot protest. It's not because we don't want to. I had occasion to deal with victims of the Nigerian state's brutality at Lekki Toll Gate in the immediate aftermath of the 20th of October massacre at Lekki. I housed some of those people in safe houses, took some people to hospitals and continued to pay for expenses arising from their medical needs until today. But these same Nigerian people, in relation to whom these people died, some lost limbs, they were active participants in the battle to kill the memorials of those who died. You found people arguing against what they saw with their own eyes on an Instagram live feed. You found Nigerians denying the humanity of those who died and were injured that day. The soldiers who killed those people at Lekki Toll Gate were not the only ones who killed them. The mortuary attendants who denied their humanity by refusing to come out. The human rights lawyers who helped the state to cover the tracks of the soldiers by diverting attention. Everyone who worked to cover what happened that day is as complicit as the student union president who is riding around the NANS president branded car. They are all the same. So it's a web of complicity that touches every aspect of our society. But when we are ready to the people on the street, the farmer, let's talk to them. Let them understand the issue. Baba talks about people who protested 2 weeks or so ago, still being in prison. Let me touch on that, Baba. I'm saying this because I know when it happened and they were arrested, my own coalition, Ramimba, Radical Agenda Movement in Nigeria, we were one of the first to be contacted. And when we offered our services, we were quickly told that Ilano would prefer to negotiate their release rather than to be fighting the state the way we will fight. So you find very quickly that nobody appears ready to follow through and do what is required. Set out the agenda, go back to the people, shut down the whole place until it is resolved. End of story. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Farotimi. We appreciate all the work you are doing and also, reaching out to people who need support and help, And it's very unfortunate that the Students' Union has become what has just been described, that they are now government-appointed officials, which is really, really very, very unfortunate, because that is where in most societies, people come out to protest and lead protests, So, Dr. Fapohunda, your closing remarks, although you have already said something, because we are now closing now, please. Any other thing you wish to?
I'm just on standby for any group work, nothing more than that. I appreciate everybody. I appreciate Dele Farotimi. I'm reading his book. And everybody, Professor Eghagha, all of us are notable opinion holders. We have conviction. But we need to do more than just having conviction and work as a group, as a team. That would really gladden our hearts. Thank you very much to everybody.
Okay, thank you. I just skipped Professor Eghagha. I'm sorry about that because we were following, a particular protocol. But never mind. So please, your final statement. I don't know why the university, dons, the academia, are not doing more than they seem to be doing. Normally, the intellectuals of the country come from the university. We spoke of the students. What about the professors and those? Is there nothing they can come out to propose to do? Because everybody seems to be suffering the same kind of situation. Everybody is afraid. Everybody is just talking at home. Nobody is doing anything. Is the academia also so powerless? Just a question, Professor. we are.
Well, let me start by appreciating all members of this panel. It's been a delight being with you and exchanging views. As I said, I've learned from the diversities of views expressed here today. Let me start by saying I went into the university system in 1978 as a student, and I've remained in years. In fact, when I was a commissioner, I was in charge of higher education. So I was dealing with students most of the time. So I have witnessed the gradual degeneration of student unionism from what it used to be, the idealism that fired us when we were in the university, to how the cults took over and how the bourgeois mentality also took over students, gradually, and how they cannot be separated from the undercurrents or currents of society, the bigger society where they operate from. If you visit some of the universities now, the student unions are banned. They don't operate. In UNILAG, for example, University of Lagos, where I teach, the student union is banned. The former vice chancellor made an attempt to resuscitate the union, but some of those unethical things which we have spoken about came up because they were trying to control the drivers, the cabs, the shops, different from the kind of unionism that we're used to. So I'm not surprised. I was dealt with student leaders, the president had an SA and a PA. That SA had a PA, and yeah, so what comes with all of this? That's at the bigger level, even at the level of English Students Association. The president had an SA, SA1, SA2, so he carried himself like a governor and was almost rude to lecturers because he thought he had the backing of students across the country, So there is something that is going on in the country that has permeated all sectors of society. You find it in the mosque, you find it in the churches, you find it in families, all right? Family gatherings, you know what happens. So when we talk about restructuring Nigeria, it's deep, very deep. We have been intimidated, we have been bullied. As Dr. Fapohunda has said, so many people are scared about going to the streets, taking to the streets to demonstrate, because when something happens to you, you're on your own, all right? You get calls from people as a student. Now, if there's a demonstration, your parents call your uncle, say, the son of who you are, don't go out, all right? So it's the state that is doing this, all right? And what Nigerians have come to see is, well, they may succeed up to a point, and then something will happen. You will get to a break point because things cannot continue like this. Then about academics. Now, for us here, we are involved in intellectual mobilization. That is what we do. That is what ASU does. That is what we professors do. When I teach, I spend the first 15, 20 minutes trying to educate my students on contemporary issues. I remember one of the last classes we had, I spoke to them about what was happening with the terrorists, the bandits, how somebody could go negotiate with the same bandit, ask for 100 million, facilitate a meeting between government and bandits. And then there is another person in another part of the country who says, no, my people have suffered enough. I'm mobilizing my people to resist. And that person is being treated like a criminal. You know, my students refused to speak up. Perhaps they were scared. Not perhaps, they were scared because everyone feels that if you speak up, you'll be arrested. I presented the class by telling them, look, from my days in government, I realized that in all institutions, you have agents. They are there. They come as students. So they take notes from what you say and feed to the agencies. So I was telling them, I said, if you have to quote me right. You know? So the students then get scared. Parents are scared. ASU can only mobilize its members for its welfare. It's a political organization. During the June 12 crisis, when we had NEC in Maiduguri, we had 48 hours of meetings on whether to make a pronouncement on the annulment to avoid ASU being split into North and South. It took the dexterity of the leadership of ASU at that time to ensure that we did not split, because ASU essentially is not a political body. It is a welfare body. It's a union for the welfare of members. But as individuals, as academics, yes, we owe it a responsibility to society to articulate the issues, the main core issues of the day, because we understand them better than the persons who are in the rural areas, who depend, you know, on the radio for information, who depend on the television, who depend on rumors, all right? So we analyze. So what we do at this level, which is one of the suggestions I would make, let there be a communique out of this discussion we have had, and let there be bullet points, and let us circulate them. That one, we are saying that Nigeria is indeed negotiable. Two, the current rulers of Nigeria should realize that they have to listen to Nigerians. Three, that we are inexorably being pushed into a North-South dichotomy, whereas the issues are bigger than that. Four, the perceived dominance of the security apparatus of Nigeria by persons from a section of the country does not augur well for the unity of this country. I mean, when I'm holding a meeting of security men, my name is Banjo, all the security men are Bayo, Ujo, Akin, and all of that. There is likely to be a skewed report. It is not healthy for one of the strengths of security reports. It is diversity. It comes from different sources, and then the man at the top filters it. Also, to make the point that poverty, hunger are indeed real in Nigeria, and that the economic policies of this administration are driving Nigerians deeper and deeper into poverty and hunger, the end of which we cannot predict. So all hands should be on deck to save Nigeria. You come out with a communique, circulate it, they will see. Dr. Fapohunda said, look, the president is aware. If we thought he was not aware of things happening, during the last series of interviews, which he gave, he just woke up suddenly and started giving those interviews. The man showed he was abreast of things that were going on. He was, and he is. All right, so we circulate all of these. By doing this, by a statement which you make, by a line which you will write, somebody somewhere will read and be enlightened. Those who are in government will know, look, these people are aware of what you are doing. Well, for instance, the National Assembly is unevenly skewed, especially the House of Representatives, all right, in terms of the power of representation. All of these issues have to be addressed. And it will not be addressed by politicians who are just seeking for power to replace the current holders of power in 2023 and perpetuate the system of things that has been going on. So if we do that, I believe we would have made a point. We can't carry guns. We can't take to the streets. But ideas rule the world. And it is our duty to germinate and disseminate ideas to the people of Nigeria. I rest. Thank you.
Well, I think you have just blown up the evening. So wonderful. Thank you so much for those concrete proposals that you have just made, which is in line with what the others, Barrister Farotimi and Dr. Fapohunda have already said. I think also Madam Ayenbi and Engineer Neyin. So wonderful. I think we will look into that and see what we can put together. And then maybe get back to the panelists and the guest speaker so that they will look that together properly. And so we will come back to you on that. So thank you very much for those concrete ideas. You know, before I go on to the last two more panelists, Madam Ogoshuku, Rita Ogoshuku asked a question. The question was directed to Barrister Farotimi. Where can she get your books to buy? She was asking the question. You know, if there is a link, if there is a link or something.
If she's shops in Lagos are carrying them, or if she's Amazon has both books, you can download Do Not Die in Their War from my website, delefarotimi.com. I pulled imperatives off my website because it was creating too much traffic to the website and it was making things very slow. But on my Twitter profile is the pinned tweet. Is in a Google document, in a cloud document. So anyone who is interested in downloading it free can look for me on Twitter and just download it from the Google document that I published there.
Okay, perfect, wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir.
Yes, let me just. Okay, Madam Goshiku has already said many times, so I don't need to get her to ask a question. So she has already thanked. She has heard you and she knows what to do now. Okay, so can I now move on to Madam Oti? Not Madam Oti yet, just to Engineer Neyin. The reason being that Madam Oti, after what she's going to say, will then do the vote of thanks. You know, so let's go to Engineer Neyin to please make his final statement, please. Thank you, sir.
Well, I think it's a wonderful discussion, and it's worth the while as long as people are talking and know how somebody's going to get a little of what we are saying. So at the end of the day, if 1/3 of what we have said is being absorbed gradually, with more of this happening and everybody coming out, it will help. I heard Prof talk about student union. The student union we have now is a pity that is dead, because I remember we're the second set in University of Benin, and this NYSC thing, when it came out, we went after the government and said, look, give us 1 full year military training, then you're going to have reserves. And go on, and the rest of them were scared that if you get this graduate to go for 1 full year military training, NDA was 6 months, then you're going to have really crack soldiers going out. All the unnecessary things they're doing could be shut down. So we went out. People like Yare, we worked with all those people. when they're looking for Yare, it will be in my room in University of Benin. Police will be looking for him. So the student union you have now, they've been compromised, and everything like it is in Nigeria is just unfortunate because they are the only people that can come up with independent view and go head on with the government. We did it with military period, and now you have civilian period where it is not as rough like then. So I don't really know. The hope is getting dwindled per day. I hope kids will wake up to face the reality, to salvage this country. I thank you all for the concern. As long as we are living, we'll continue to talk, and we hope that these guys will listen and go back to the drawing board so I will get a true federalism where everybody will be recognized. Thank you all.
So thank you very much, Engineer Neyin. Before I hand over to Madam Oti, we will make a final statement and also do the vote of thanks. Let me just, if she permits me, I'm not doing the vote of thanks now per se, but I just want to thank Barrister Farotimi for accepting the invitation, which Madam Oti is still going to do in details. For the contributions you have made and the way we have worked together before this very event. So thank you so much. For Madam Oti is going to do the vote of thanks. So I just wanted to mention that. And of course,
thank you very much.
Yes, and of course, Professor Eghagha, thank you so much for your time and for accepting the invitation. Madam Oti is waiting to do that in more details. I just wanted to say thank you so much. We appreciate also your presence here, you know, and the contributions you have made. Dr. Fapohunda, of course, the same goes to you. You are one of us, but notwithstanding wonderful contributions you have made. And Engineer Neyin, of course, for the wonderful contributions, particularly those areas of the oil industry that you spoke about, the PIB. I wonder why you didn't raise an alarm during that time when the PIB was being discussed at the Senate, because we in the South, we tend to always scream when it is all done. When the work is done, the deed is done, then we all come out. But we must have known that these things were being discussed, and that will have been the time to raise alarm. But never mind, I'm not saying that it is your fault. I'm only just saying that we, the Southerners, have to also perhaps learn to do these things at the right time and not when the deed is already done, you know. So, Engineer Neyin, thank you so much for your presence here. We appreciate. And Madam Oti, of course, let me also thank you for the wonderful contributions you have made. You are still going to do the vote of thanks, but because I am just the moderator, I need to also say a few things. Thank you so much for your efforts and for the roundtable and for also this very evening. So thank you so much. So it's over to you now to do your final contribution and do the official vote of thanks, please. Thank you, Madam Oti.
Thank you very much, Dr. Edobor, for this opportunity. Now, let me quickly start from the rear, talking about restructuring. Now, we've been hitting this, it's been in the front burner. Restructuring, yes. Linking restructuring to the youth. We just mentioned a student union president who is really an accomplice to the current government. So where do we go from here? Talking about restructuring, when you now restructure, who will take up the responsibility? Now we're coming to our minds. After restructuring, it is the same people, the same Nigerians that will govern at their own level. If the minds, if our mentality do not change, I think we will go nowhere, because it's going to be the same crop of people that will rule the masses, and that may not change. I am not against restructuring, I am for it, but my worry is that we do not seem to have the people that would go ahead and actually carry out what we want them to do. We have students. For God's sake, it is true. It's good that this is raised. I have been asking what's happening to our students, really. Students have been compromised. So what they want now is they're fighting for their own pockets. Are we saying these young people, when they become governors, they become whatever, members of the House, when they now have power, are they going to be different? That's my question. And that's my worry, that's my concern as well. So on that note, where do we go from here? Is it possible? Dr. Fapohunda said something that people should stay at home, perhaps once in a month. Yes, I agree with that. If actually public functionaries would understand that they equally suffer the same problem and they down tool once a month. If the banking sector says, no, today we're not going to work with down tools. If every member of the different entity, teachers, in fact, the whole Nigeria members will say, no, we're not working today. The private sector, no job. We sit at home. Once a month, I think a message will be sent to those in authority and they will get to start working. Again, my suggestion, this may be drastic, but 2023, is it possible that Nigerians would understand and say, look, we're not going to the polls. No elections. We sit at home. Whenever election is called, we say no. Can that be done? Otherwise, how do we send these messages to the government or the people in authority? It's a Herculean task. It's true, I really don't know how we're going to do this because we're really getting to a point where our arms seems tied. We are really armstrong. Now, all these suggestions, interesting, very good points, salient points that we just talked about, solutions that we've profiled. How do we get this to the doorstep of those at the corridor of power? And are they willing to implement? We need to ponder over that. Are they willing to implement? Are they ready to listen? So how do we get them to listen to us, to our cry? Again, it's a Herculean task. I'm not discouraged, but we just keep coming together and organizing this kind of webinars, keep meeting, keep talking, forming groups, forming civil society associations. We'll keep talking until such a time that those in government will listen and things will change for the better, hopefully. So on that note, I've been asked to give a vote of thanks. Now, on behalf of the Global Roundtable, I'd like to thank the guest speaker for accepting to speak to us despite his tight schedule, because I can see he's on his way home. I'd like to also thank the panelists, the discussants, for responding positively and accepting to share their thoughts with us. Permit me to thank participants as well for your time, the time with which you connected with us. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Thank you for your contributions by way of comments and questions. Very meaningful indeed. All the points that have been raised here are very, very salient, and there are points we need to ponder over. When you go home, in your quiet corner, please go and start thinking, reflect over all you have heard today, and meet with other people, your friends, your family members, discuss with them, and find out ways to actually help to resolve this quagmire, this imbroglio that we find ourselves in Nigeria, this miry clay that we call Nigeria today. So I said it earlier, it's a collective responsibility. We really have to synergize, really have to come together to find a lasting solution to the challenges that are really bedeviling us in Nigeria. It is quite clear that passionate points have been raised. We all are passionate about our country. That is evident in all the proposals, solutions that have been given. So I hope that someday these messages will get to the ears of those at the helm of affairs, and they will have the political will to act accordingly in the interest, above all, in the interest of the masses, because we're all crying today. The problem here is actually, in the center is the interest of the masses. We're talking about the masses, what the French would call the tiers état. So that's very, very important. Please permit me to use this opportunity to invite you to join the Global Roundtable. It's a place where you have eggheads, people of very, very sound minds. We discuss issues, as you can see. Join us from time to time. We can, if you let us have your phone numbers, we can connect you to the Global Roundtable. And once again, I'd like to thank you all very much for coming and for accepting to be with us. It's about 3 hours now. Thank you for your time, and God bless. Thank you very much, and bye for now.
So thank you very, very much, Madam Ayenbi. So thank you for that. So like I said, when we come back with those communiques, we think about it and what can be done. And so thank you so much. Just to buttress what Madam Ayenbi has just said, for your time and for everything. And with that, we bring this event to a closure, and we'll get back to you and connect with you, and hopefully this will be the beginning of a good relationship between you and the Nigerian Global Roundtable. So thank you very much, Madam. Thank you very much, all of you, sirs.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so good night.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye for now. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Neyin.
So, okay. Bye then for everybody. So we are ending now. Okay. Bye and good night.
Good night.
Bye.